Hey everyone. I am so sorry that we're not meeting live. You can see I'm all ready, but we're gonna just do the best we can this week, and I really appreciate your um, willingness to just listen a little bit this week and fill a couple of things out onto the Google. So, all right. So without further ado, you will need to go ahead and make sure you've turned in your management models, graphic organizer, your logical consequences, and minor misbehaviors. So that's good. So I hope you are having a good day out there. The next thing that was up was always setting our intention. So I'm going to flip back and forth here between my Google Slides. So here on the Google, you can set your intention for listening today. You can also fill in the parking lot as you want today. So if you have any questions, I'll check it later. Okay. We were going to begin with a repeat, actually, of a greeting. And so I'm just going to say shalom to everyone today, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. And please take a moment to wish another person in your life a really lovely greeting. All right. So next, what I want you to do is you'll go ahead and this link is on the Google, so we'll go there. Click on this one. You can see 5 ways to reward a student. It's all about rewards. A bit of a continued conversation here was dangling rewards. Go ahead and read those and just yourself, obviously. And then by yourself, consider how your mindset has maybe changed regarding rewards or not changed. And then head to the next slide. So slide number 6, here you see your names. I used to think rewards, but now I know rewards. Okay, and go ahead and fill this out. I'll be checking later on this week. No hurry, but I'll check it between now and probably the end of the week, probably before class next Monday. So just make sure you have a chance to do that. If you have any changes on the way you're thinking about rewards. All right. So here we go. I'll read my nice message to you. Hi, everyone. I'm ready for us to talk about one of the most challenging topics in teaching, what to do when students misbehave. We're going to discuss a wide variety of approaches that you can try. It is important to keep in mind that there is no one right solution. We try, we observe, we reflect, and we learn from each other in every instance in which we manage our students. So cheers from me. Today, you're going to identify the attributes in Kunin's management theory. You're going to describe some strategies for addressing minor misbehaviors, including logical consequences. And I can explore the pros and cons of rewards, which we've done before. All right. So here we go. Here's the same slide we've looked at, right? We know it's really important. Kunin has a lot of these principles that are embedded in his work. All right, so we look at that under the guise of understanding that a proactive classroom management uses reinforcing language such as reminding and redirecting, as well as having an array of strategies in mind for addressing minor misbehaviors. So when we're talking about reinforcing language, there are some tenets to think about. These include that we build on their strengths, not their weaknesses, that we identify and affirm positive actions. We recognize them, and we just make sure that we are noticing them. This is a review from last week. Saying great job is not reinforcing language. Rather, we want to be concrete and specific. So, as we said last week, not spelling shows progress, but saying, oh, you remember to change the Y to an I before adding ED. And we talked a little bit, I believe, about how to use thank you, when to use it, when not to use it, right? So we thank for very specific reasons, right? We don't thank for reasons that don't deserve to be thanked for, right? Things that we expect. We avoid using I like. So these are all we talked about before, but some really great examples. Did you notice? You remembered, etc. So we were going to look at some reinforcing language, and let's look here down the slide. So on the Google Doc, you can see, if you follow along, I've given you these reinforcing language here. So we're going to be looking at some different scenarios, okay? So here's the first one to think about. You're walking your students from a classroom to art, and as you monitor the line, you notice all your students are following all of your expectations for how to walk quietly in the hall. So I was going to have you do a quick turn and talk. What could you say to reinforce this behavior? All right, so just think about that for a minute or two. How would you reinforce? Maybe which one of these would you think about using? All right, so you can pause as you need to. The next one that you read about this week is reminding language, and here's some tenets from reminding language. One of them is that we all need reminders, right? We all could use a little help in that arena sometimes. So classroom reminders prompt children to do the remembering themselves, right? So why do we do this? It's so to create autonomy, competence, self-control, and that intrinsic motivation. Really good reminding language includes your tone and body. It includes the specific words that we have, and can be either proactive or reactive. All right. So here's some examples of reminding. What will you do to get ready for the blank quickly? Remind us. How do we plan to take care of? It's time for lunch. What should we do? How will we make sure everyone is included? What are our meeting rules? So you can see those are also listed here as well, right? So a nice easy screenshot that you could have right there. Okay. All right, so I was going to continue on that journey to art. You're preparing to walk the students from the classroom to art, but this time it's a tough transition for the students because it follows a long literacy block. So what could you have said to remind those students of the expectations before you lined them up for art? What reminding language might have fit in there? Okay. And then a second one, which you're going to still walk those classrooms. It's a tough transition. And as you monitor the line, you notice a few students are whispering to a friend. So what could you say to remind the students of their expected hallway behavior, right? So remind us. What do we do in the hallway to make sure that we are respectful of other classrooms, right? So, very good. The other chapter was on redirecting language and some important tenets there. When we're redirecting, what you're needing to do is give a clear, non-negotiable message about what to do. Use when students are doing something unsafe, usually not emotionally ready maybe to make a good choice, so you need to redirect them. The message is when you are not in control, I will be in control. And that's really important. It's not about anything other than to make sure that we're creating a safe environment. When you're doing this, you need to be specific and direct. Name the desired behavior. Be brief. That's very important. Say it as a statement, not a question. You're not asking. And then you need to follow up. You need to reinforce what you're doing, right? So this one's a good one. Put those markers away. Don't ask. Don't ever say, can you please put those markers away? If what you mean is put those markers away. It is time to listen now. You don't need to say a long sentence about why it's important to listen now. You just need to go ahead and listen, period. So back to this scenario. You're walking your students from the classroom to art, and there's always a tough transition for students because it follows a long literacy block. And at this time, as you monitor the line, you notice that a few students were lagging behind and they're running to catch up. What could you say to redirect their behavior, right? So think about this. Yeah. Being very short and brief, right? What could you say? All right, so we were going to do a little group activity here, and so let me switch over to my. So I've given you those things, and I've also just given you my scenarios there. So, in small groups, review the teacher's response during the read to self time in the reading center. So all of these were the same teacher response, and it wasn't perfect. So I was going to have you practice working with a couple of friends to discuss how you might remind or redirect. What could you reinforcement that could have been used? Okay. So if you would like, what I'll do is I'll make a copy of each of these for each of you, and I'll do that right now. I'm going to pause my machine here. Okay, so I actually stopped my video for a minute, and what I've done is I've made a space for each of you, and you'll notice that now, for everyone to have a chance to practice thinking of some reminding, some redirecting, and some reinforcing language. So you'll find your name somewhere along there. And go ahead, fill that out, and I'll take a look at it, and I'll put the due date on the email. I'm not sure what day I'm going to write down right now, but I'll give you plenty of time to get this done. All right. All right. So it's a good chance to practice that. All right. All right, here we go. So another thing that we were going to do is obviously talk about the last management model of Kunin. Kunin, a lot of really good things to talk about, that he brings up. Instead, of course, I have provided on your Google slide, the past ones of responsive classroom, assertive discipline, PBIS. But what we'll do here is just on your own, just kind of think about these nutshells. No one needs to fill this out, but make sure you include Kunin's work about seeing the room. I can't recall anything right now, but he's got some good tidbits that you might want to make part of your management plan. All right, so you'll work on nothing to do there, but just, in fact, I'm going to just go ahead and delete that off of there. Okay, but you'll have that opportunity to do that, to think about that. Okay. All right. So addressing minor behaviors. Really important that we think through these minor behaviors. I know that you did this. These 4 scenarios for your pre-work for class. What I'm going to ask you to do is just choose one of those, and struggling right now. Choose one of these slides on the Google and say what you would thought. Just write your name with it. So for example, maybe I'll choose a student waste time because maybe no one's done that, and I would write Mandy. And I would say a logical consequence is maybe a loss of a privilege, right? Okay, and so I would write loss of privilege, okay, and then say what that is. Maybe I would give some reminding, redirecting, or an alternative approach, right? 1, 2, 3 magic, ignoring, conflict resolution, etc. All right, so make sure you just give me one of those. You can choose any of the 4 scenarios, and you can obviously more than one person can do any number of those. Okay? Alrighty. So finally, here we are. How important it is to talk about this. So, how we handle rule breaking is what distinguishes consequences versus what is viewed as punishment. So logical consequences work. They work because they don't intimidate, they don't deprive, they don't humiliate or hurt, right? They are connected to the mistake that has happened. They encourage participation or decision-making for one's own behaviors. You take ownership over the responsibility of your actions, right? So that goes to bullet point 3. It's responding to choices and actions, not the character of a person. They're delivered with firmness, with kindness, always, and empathy. We have to be understanding of our students. And it's never personal. It's not about us, but rather it's about classroom safety. And what it does is it helps restore control and self-respect for our classmates, for ourselves. Okay. And when you are consistent, I will say that's a really, really important part of this. When we're thinking about key steps, make sure that we go through these key steps before we get to these logical consequences. So stop and think, are my expectations appropriate for first graders, second graders, right? Then, are my expectations appropriate for this individual student, their needs and abilities? Okay? And if you don't know, I would err on the side of more grace than less. Then evaluate your options. Provide the specific workable consequence, one of these forms, right? And provide a time limit. Okay? Very important to do that. One of those most important classroom management is the timeout, take a break. We saw that. I believe that young man, I just took a screenshot of, I believe his name was Marcus, right? He was just modeling that for his classmates. But the timeout, the take a break, the calming down chair is a routine that is taught and modeled and practiced by everyone. It is a directive, not a negotiation. You are going to the timeout chair. Not, would you go to the timeout chair? You're not negotiating. It does help for the small things to avoid getting big. It's about the regaining of one's self-control, which is so important, right? This is to help you. It's appropriate for everyone in the class. It can take place in another room if you need it to, and sometimes as a teacher you might need that time for your student to go elsewhere. Oops, that should say if. But it may not be appropriate if the behavior has escalated, okay? All right. Let me just check my slides here really quickly. Yeah, so when we're thinking about managing misbehaviors, okay, we often think about how that teachers need to deal with their angers in ways that don't undermine the respectful and trusting relationship with our students. So the 5 tips that were given, Tony gave through the heated moment, which one resonates with you? So put your initials on slide, oh golly, number 30. Number 30 there. Okay. And just to think through maybe what your other friends put down, right? Which are the strategies that you most want to do? And maybe we can get back to this next week if we have time. Okay. All right, guys. So that's it. That's what I've got for today. I'm real sad that we couldn't be together. Remember, your next investigation is due on Sunday. I will get to your PBAs this week. Your classroom management is due on the 2nd. Don't forget to keep your texts for ELED 545. You'll use the same textbooks there. I'll put up some readings here soon for next week. Okay? I do want you to do your exit tickets today, so make sure that you include something that you did think about this week. All right? But I just want to wish you a good week, and again, my apologies. But hopefully this will maybe give you a little extra time for yourself this week, which is never a bad thing. All right? Sending good vibes, and I'll talk to you on next week.